Hello and welcome back to A Man Walks Around a Maze talking about Iain M Banks, which I'm sure is a compelling prospect for people beyond number. So, chapters 1 and 2 of the first section of the book. So here we've met the two brothers on the Shell World. First of all, we meet Furbin, and this is a great introduction to a character. We see him having seen the horrors of war up close and scared out of his wits and fleeing for his life, having soiled his own trousers and having run away basically and hid in an abandoned outpost. And we get in the backstory of what's just transpired, we get an introduction to the world, which is this mechanizing, feudalistic but mechanizing world. And we see that this world is at war, and the father of this main character, Furbin, is the king, and he's advanced. He's been a forceful, conquering king that's advanced the technology, and for the Sal people, who are the people that he leads. And we get this introduction to Fabian in this character, who's preening and a bit brash and is not all he could be, really. He's lived this pampered life, and it says at one point that he doesn't want to be the king. Being a king doesn't sound like much fun, whereas being a prince is quite an enjoyable business. Furbin cowering, and even though he's a bit of an idiot, you also get the sense that he's not a complete idiot, because he had the good sense not to want to go and stand up on the ridge, which was very exposed. And he has this instinct that revealing himself when his father is brought in, and when Mercatile Kyle and the others are there, for some reason he just senses that it wouldn't be a good idea to reveal himself. So although he's painted as a bit of a preening idiot, he's also got some sense in him. And so he's definitely, we're getting a sense that this guy is a flawed hero, and he's not going to be a traditional heroic, brave, particularly intelligent, hitting challenges head on. He's more of someone who's going to have to go on a bit of a journey if he's going to develop into that kind of a hero. And then the plot is right away, you're getting the plot begin to become apparent, that you've got Mercatile Kailos, who's been the king's right-hand man, but actually, as he says, the game is always deeper than you knew, just before literally reaching into the chest of the dying king and finishing the job, before ruthlessly shooting the assistant to the doctor. So you get this immediate introduction to this guy, who's one of the clear villains of the piece, and you get a sense of him, how ruthless he is and how power hungry he is, and Furbin was quite right to remain hidden. I'm sure that if he'd revealed himself, he would have been taken care of and turned from assumed dead to very definitely dead in a matter of moments. So it's a good, vivid, slightly disturbing introduction. It makes you want to know more about the world, and there's a few really kind of enticing details when they begin to talk a bit about the Shell World. I think, is it in this chapter, there's a mention of a Rome star, maybe? These thermonuclear artificial stars that roam around the inside of the shell above. And you get a sense of the different forces at play and the environment that it's in. You get a sense of how it's battles that are being fought with beasts of burden and still swords, but also it's mechanizing, and there's machines now, and that's transforming the way the world operates. So you get that chapter, and then the next chapter is an introduction to Furbin's brother, who's called Oromon, and it's interesting the way these brothers contrast, because Oromon is clearly very different from his older brother who was trained to be a diplomat. Oromon's really destined to be a scholar, so and you get a sense, because you ride it's not first person, it's third person obviously, but it's a tight third person where you get access to his thoughts, and you understand what he's reflecting on and what his insights are and how his mental processes work. And again, that gives you a good contrast between him and Furbin. You can see that Oromon is much more, well, he's less emotional, he's quite detached, almost to the point where, would you call that a flaw maybe in some ways? Like he's very unemotional, and he's very aware of how he's expected to act and what people expect from him. And when he goes to see his father's body, and he's trying to behave in a way that everyone would deem appropriate, and he's trying to behave to his stepmother in a way that's appropriate. I mean, he's a likable character. He's a much more likable character than Furbin is. But you can also, at first I thought, well, maybe is he going to be a threat to Mercatile Cael-Losp? Surely maybe he doesn't want the throne, he doesn't want the power. But then he's quite clever. He's quite sharp-witted, and there's a nice moment when he's responding to Mercatile Cael-Losp's speech, his overblown, pompous speech about the death of the king, and Oromon responds in kind, on the fly, weaving together various famous plays and poems and coming up with something. And there's a nice moment when you see that Mercatile Cael-Losp kind of looks at him sharply. So I think, and this guy is astute, and he's going to be astute to the point of paranoia, and he's not going to let anyone threaten his power. So you can see, as Cael-Losp says in the previous chapter, the closer that Oromon comes to his majority, the more likely it is that he's going to meet with a nasty accident, and you can definitely see that unfolding. And again, the other thing you get in this chapter is more about the Shell World. There's the meeting with the Oct ambassador, lovely description of this crab-like alien that's in some kind of suit to allow him to survive out of the aquatic world that he obviously is meant to be living in. 8-limbed, weird, with that weird speech that's a bit nonsensical. And again, you get the sense of Oromon. He says something about how you can sometimes decode the speech, but it takes more time than he has there. So I'm not sure Fabian could decode that speech, for instance. I think Oromon is clearly meant to be the sharper of the two brothers. But yeah, you get the world building, you get more of a sense of what the Shell World is like. You begin to get this idea that these concentric worlds house different species, and I think the Sal people live on the 7th, and so the layer above, their mentor species, is it mentor species or sponsor species? The Oct live there. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Great couple of chapters. Looking forward to reading the next bit, and I'll report back on that soon.